We are. I don't think anybody's coming. Is there a traffic accident?
Yeah. School district sent out a notice that since the cold weather has come back, the car line is a lot longer, which I can attest to. 'Cause I guess parents are saying no walking and no sitting at the bus stop when it's that cold, I guess.
A lot more driving.
Yeah, there's a lot more. The pickup lines are a lot longer than we went.
We're so soft down here.
Well, 50 degrees.
Okay, it is 4:30 on Tuesday, the 14th of January 2025. I'd like to call the monthly MUD 7 meeting to order. We're in session now. Shall we stand and do the, well, I guess I can take attendance. Brad's here, Marta,
Here.
Emily.
Here.
Paul. Here. Jack. Here. Okay, with all 5 present, we have a quorum. We're ready to do business. Shall we stand and do the invocation on the pledges? I mean, perfect. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this new year that we began. Thank you for the blessings of life. We thank you for opportunity to do service for the community, for our participation in the MUD. May that you be with us tonight. Honor you, interactions, the goals with the community in front of us, that we would make wise and important decisions that would serve the community. We thank you for this tonight. Pray these things in Christ's name. Let's show the flag to U.S. flag. Let's wave and stick the flag. Right, let's do the republic, which is there. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Show me on the Texas flag. Under the Texas flag, pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. This is, by the way, storm trap.
It's actually roof. It's actually roof.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the leaves like just coming off the roof with no breeze.
Any comments from the public? No. Okay. Any requests for adjustments? No. Okay. Consent agenda, rather long, 5 through 12. I'll open it up for any comments on that.
Did did they present our results to the trustees from the matrix that we worked on at the December meeting?
Well, that would be in your report or your
Trustees,
report.
yeah.
Oh,
That'll be, I'm holding on to those till the end of January. We have 8 of them done, one's almost done, and one will be finished tomorrow. That'll be all 10. Once they're all finished, then we'll provide that to Corolla. I had promised to wait until the end of the month, so it's not holding on to those, but those will go straight to the consultant.
So with that in mind, on page 6, item 4, says the weighting comparison worksheet will be included with the minutes. So when I look at that implies, I think that was a request that in the minutes of our December meeting, we would have our work would be included in there. I didn't see that in those minutes.
In your folder.
It's in,
The folder right in front of you, the pink folders,
okay,
the December. folder,
okay, so it's in there,
The matrix.
okay.
Decision matrix that y'all did.
With the results.
So how do we get, so will it be posted online then?
If you want, put it on, and I normally just put the minutes, but I can put that on there, yeah.
You want to wait till you do your, until you get everybody else's, right?
Sure, I mean,
But I think we wanted to see the
Oh,
record.
once we submit it to them, I'm gonna give you copies of all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna package them up. I just don't have them all done because there's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
okay,
my intention is once they're all done and once we get them to, it'll probably be at your February meeting that I'll pass them. So you can see what all the other ones did.
okay. So we'll get what we did in December back to us in February.
Yes,
Okay,
as well as the others.
okay.
Okay.
Also on page 6, maybe I just missed this as I prepared for this meeting, but we deferred the Garver engineering recommendation of January. Is that action in the plan for this meeting?
Actually, no, we'll have to add it to next month.
Okay.
Because I had recalled that we did, but you're right, there was no action taken.
Okay, so that'll be added to the February meeting. Anybody else have any comments on the consent agenda? So there's a number of new items in there. That's why I want to make sure everybody's okay with those additional items. We need to break them out for
Yeah, I
further discussion.
Question for Kim on page 28 for the approval of a resolution authorizing the submittal of the Water Smart application. Yes. And I wanted to ask, what are the objectives that we are finding for here? I just want to be clear on those.
Yeah, so we submit the Water Smart application once a year. And so the resolution that's in the packet, we have to have that approved by each of the MUDs to submit that application. And so the program's the same program that we've had in place for several years. So it would just be submitting the same application.
I mean, I know that we have, it's kind of like, is there a target of a certain percentage of getting people on the Water Smart program? I think I read something about that.
Not.
It's different.
Okay, it's different.
Same name,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
commonly,
Yeah.
this is through AWD, and getting on, their system as a Water Smart member. It's
I asked the same question. So, yeah, when I came, I asked the same exact question. So, but this is the application that gets submitted to AW.
Right. Yeah, I knew that there was something about compliance and a plaque and everything that I was reading
Right.
about.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have certain things that we have to do as part of that program, community outreach, events and stuff like that. And so we have to submit backup support showing that we are interacting with the public and that we're disseminating, public information, bumper stickers and other brochures for public education. So, and part of the backup documents include pictures, photos, and articles out of the newspaper and stuff like that. So to show that we are actively engaging, including that the board members are active too. So if we have pictures of the board members at any of these events, we include those in that application as well. So.
There were two different portions of that, the one you're explaining and the other one where it talks about compliance. So I was just curious what this was actually targeting. So thank you.
So compliance, I'm not sure, Eric. offhand, Yeah, I'm thinking as I'm getting familiar with this application. I mean, there's certain things that we have to be doing to be part of the program and reaching out. And that's why I'm thinking compliance in that respect,
Yeah, there were two sections, and what you're describing was the part where, we're engaging,
Yeah, correct.
and that could be this. And there's another part that was a push, maybe it's their overall thing that they're trying to implement long-term.
Right.
It was a 90% usage rate.
So that's a different program, right?
Okay.
You're talking about, so.
I want to make
this
sure
is-
what we're doing.
so
That's
we're-
why I'm asking the
we're-
question.
So this is very confusing. So the Associated Water Board Directors has something called Water Smart Partners Program. That's completely separate from the use of smart meters,
Yes.
okay? And that's where the confusion comes in. So we have a goal on how many people we want to have on smart meters. We have a goal of how many people we want to have using the application and having notifications that if they have a water leak, they get notified, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's separate from this.
It is.
Water
Thank you for the
director.
clarification.
So
Yeah.
what would help me is and I always struggle with this on page 28. Your resolution talks about the board has reviewed all the requirements, has discussed and reviewed the applications, has fulfilled the necessary requirements. And I don't think you don't bring that to us before you ask us to endorse this resolution. If you could, as a follow-up, provide that, because I think particularly for folks that are new, this comes out of the blue, and it's really only after you go to a meeting, Associated Water Board Directors meeting, where they present the award, you realize, oh, this is what this was all about. Okay, and it's much more of a, well, I won't say PR, but it's a public engagement as opposed to a use of meters, right? Isn't that?
We try to capture that. Like I said, it's more than just the events. I mean, it's the articles, the outreach and the newsletters, everything that we're doing that we're capturing, and we're putting this backup support for the AWBD program. And that's where the award comes in that Brad's mentioned. So-
Right, so even that, I don't see, I mean, I read the one online. And it gives all those details, and I thought maybe you're going to be choosing which two, because it says choose which two for the community that you want to participate in. Like you're actually, and so when you get to this letter, it's kind of like we reviewed and did all that. It's like, well, did we? So I just want to make sure that we're engaged in that process too, so we can be supportive. Thank you.
Like reviewing the application, is that what you mean? Or just?
So it was definitely there to read, but I mean, if we're participating, you want our participation because it was talking about.
So
the different
events.
involved.
Events, is that what I'm understanding? You want to
What the
participate?
goals are of our participating in this program?
Well, I mean, it's not in this packet. The one online has the list of all the different things, the segments that you can participate in. You choose, it says like, choose two.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
you go through the application.
right,
So, if we were wanting to, as a group, for our area,
right.
be involved in that,
Okay,
rather than maybe just reviewing it and reading it,
okay, I got you, yeah.
be more
so-
engaged in the
Sure,
process.
yeah, and I'll talk with John and see how we engage y'all so that I become familiar too, and we make y'all aware, so, I know that as well, so I'm putting the application together, pulling the information, and, I'm not, as familiar right now on how those events are getting coordinated and.
On the implementation of those events, every month John gives you the report and it says where we're gonna be next.
Okay,
And so we have directors that say, hey, can I join? And they do. So, from time to time. So we'd love to have whoever wants to go. We would love more directors to come out and have it. And it's like a booth at a
The
village.
farmer's market.
Exactly. Yep. So we have a number of those we do throughout the year that John and the team are involved in.
So if you can take the follow-up to send us the requirements for the participation and the application. So the directors can say, yeah, we understand what this is more about. Okay.
and then the application is due, I believe, March 1st, so, I guess we could table the resolution until
Sure,
next
yeah,
month.
fine.
Yeah, we have time. so
Okay,
we
if you want to
can-
do that.
Yeah.
So would that help you guys?
Yes.
We table the resolution? Okay, okay, that's fine.
Need to make a motion?
I think so for that.
Okay.
So that's Items 5 through 12, any other discussion on those? Can I get a motion that we approve the consent agenda?
So we.
Yeah, we're tabling 11, or tabling 11 till,
So we don't have to have a separate motion for 11, it's just approve
Yeah,
everything
yes.
except 11.
yeah.
We have to
I
say,
will move that we accept the consent agenda with exception of number 11 as a table until the February meeting for approval. Based on.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, can we call for a vote? All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay,
Brad, real quick, if we could, we do have an adjustment from item 4
For task.
on the tax side.
okay,
It's tax year 2023 for Charles Dominguez. The appraisal district got the billing address, or did not change the billing address, so they never received a bill. And I got the letter from them that it was their error. So, they're asking for $30.76 back. And I do recommend refunding. Unfortunately, I have to bring this to y'all.
okay, that's fine, but we're giving them $30 back because,
They paid penalty and interest where they shouldn't have.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Guys, comments, discussion on that?
I move we do that. Reimburse her.
I second it.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Thank you. Okay. That takes us to item 13, which is the first regular agenda item on page 29.
Question, by the doing so, we just agreed to approve the other two other resolutions? One of them has a blank number for the
No,
disability.
no, that's on 29. You're talking about page 29?
Yeah, probably there. I mean, it has,
That's not in the consent agenda. That's a current item right now.
it's not, okay.
If you're looking at regular agenda, item 13 is page 29 to 31. Yeah.
Did we
Well-
vote on approving the lawyers to collect delinquent accounts? That was in here. So that was approved as well with this consent agreement.
Yeah, that's why I paused to try to,
Okay,
okay,
I remember reading it.
okay. So we're all line, excuse me.
So page 26 and 27 was approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Eric, thanks for the correction. My eyes were kind of crooked there. Okay. So item 13 is the audit report.
My name is John Knox, with Knox Cox and Company. Start with apology. Last 2 pages of the audit report and last year's information regarding board members. I did bring with me the current information that we're going to add to the final report. You can make sure everybody's name's spelled correctly or on it if you don't mind. Audit went well. I thought since we have a few new board members, I would kind of talk about the content of the report so that everybody can understand it. Pages 1 and 2 is our opinion. It's an unqualified opinion, which is a good opinion. That's really what you're paying us for. That's where we're working to. Page 3 through 8 of the report is what we call our management discussion and analysis. It's really an opportunity.
Can you pause and explain to the group what an unqualified opinion means and why that's a good thing?
Yeah. Our audit, we're doing a multitude of things during an audit. We're testing internal controls, understanding the nature of, and understanding, looking for material weaknesses and holes in the system. And then we're getting into the numbers. Okay, so the opinion, which has gotten longer and longer over my 4 years of doing this, talks about all the facets of the audit. And if we had any issues, it would come up in this opinion. We also present an auditor communication letter, which tells the board, and it's available. I didn't bring it, but it tells the board if we had any disagreements with management, if we had any material issues that we had to deal with, if we had any material weaknesses in the system. And I'm happy to report we didn't. So everything's functioning as we like to see it. So that's what the opinion in so many words tries to tell us.
And just to clarify, your focus and your opinion on the audit is a judgment that the numbers reflect reality.
Yeah.
They're not a judgment on the stability of the business or the financial position of the company.
If we had what we call going concern issues, they would be reflected in that opinion as well.
Okay.
The fact that we don't have any going concern issues means that, we don't say anything about it in the opinion. Yeah. But it's quite a lengthy, like I said, but it talks about our opinions, our basis for our opinions, our management's responsibility in the audit, our responsibility in the audit. And then it goes on to talk about some parts of the report that where we take responsibility and so forth.
What we're hearing from them is the numbers we see every month, factual, represent the business, and things are operating under the proper controls.
Right. Right.
Okay.
And if we had any concerns, we certainly come to the board next time. Pages 3 through 8 is what they call management discussion analysis. It gives the district the opportunity to kind of highlight things that may have happened during the year. We generally in the mud world use kind of a boilerplate technology for the MD&A, but it's certainly an opportunity. If the board ever feels like they need to highlight something, we can get it in there. That's really it's a place where management can kind of talk about the district, and not the auditor. Pages 10, 11, 12, and 13, these are the financial statements. The first column that says general, that's the fund accountings that you see month in, month out. We then convert it into more of a proprietary presentation, business presentation, and that's what those adjustments for. And so that we get from a general fund balance sheet to a statement of net position. Similarly, on the income statement, we do the same thing. We go from a fund type of accounting to a business type of accounting. This has been going on for the last 20 years. It's, in my opinion, a little odd, but it's required. But the numbers you see day in and day out are the first columns of those reports. And I'm happy to say I don't think we have any significant adjustments at all. Then we go into the notes to the financial statements, pages 15 through 32. And this is all the information that kind of supports the financial statements. It really gives the reader an opportunity to dig into the numbers. I know your attorney will spend a little time studying the notes because they want to make sure that we are reflecting the issues that may be coming along. Like they'll write, if you look on page 32, the annexation of the program, they help us with that. Things they get from the information. Page 34 is your budget to actual. This is what we call required supplementary information. It has to be included in the report. This report to be in accordance with our standards. And so every mud report will have it. And then the last pages, including the page which I have to apologize for, is what we call Texas supplementary information. And that's information that the CPEQ required in their audit report. This is a very plug and play report. As you can imagine, every mud has a similar report, very similar, and in the state of Texas. So TCEQ takes this information, combines it, analyzes it, does whatever they need to do. And we'll get that pages 46 and 47 updated for you. Final, our normal process is that we give the board some time to digest the report. If they have any comments, questions, they got a couple weeks. They can email me, Maureen, whatever, and get it in there. Your attorneys are combing through it as well, looking for, things they would like to add or change. And then we're gonna have one more, process for review. So by the end of, January, we'll get final reports to the attorney. The attorney will then has until around mid-February to file the PCQ, which will be 135 days after year end. And what we look for is an approval subject to any modifications from your attorney. But so, you know, anything big, obviously, we bring back to the board, typos, that kind of thing. We'll get in there.
So we vote on this in February, or we approve it in February?
We approve it subject to any, non-significant modifications that the attorney or the auditor or the board may.
Today.
Hey.
Today. Yeah.
Today, yeah.
So the motion is to approve the draft audit, subject to any comments that may be provided by directors, staff, or consultants, and to authorize that the finalized audit be filed with the TCEQ within that 135-day deadline.
This has been, well, not the MUD 7, but the overall has been reviewed by the audit committee and then
Okay.
reviewed by the trustees also, right?
The WWA
The
audit,
WVA,
the
yeah,
11 audits,
yeah, but
that one has been, yes.
yeah,
It
okay.
was approved.
So they all flow kind of the same,
Correct.
same way through, okay. So entertain questions or comments back to John or the group. And then we'll be looking for a motion to approve this pending the.
I make a motion, we approve the draft audit.
Second? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, John. And this is one that really spending some time before the meeting. I mean, you just walk in, it's overwhelming. Okay, but certainly now that you have it, if you didn't get a chance to review before, you got it. You can follow up with Eric and the team on any questions or comments you've got.
We see it in pieces every month, right?
Yeah, but it's much different when it's all together. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, you see the account balances and the financials every month, but which obviously you're in there, but when it gets into the audit language, it's a little different.
Okay, and that is one of the major things we do every year is review this and endorse this and go on. So. Okay, now we'll get to item 14, which is exemptions for the taxation, and that begins on page 29. And we actually have a decision to make, and then we'll ask for a recommendation and a approval on this one.
Is
So-
this an increase or just?
No.
So there's two components. One is the general residential homestead component. You're maxed out at 20%. That's paragraph 2 or section 2. We prepared that assuming that all the districts are keeping the maximum 20% residential homestead exemption. Section 1 is the other part. That's over 65 and disabled exemption. So you can see on the chart on page 31 what you did for 2024, which was a $20,000 over 65 and disabled exemption. Left that blank.
There's
in case
different
y'all wanna
numbers
check
here,
that.
Brian?
Excuse me?
Given that there's different numbers by MUD,
Mhm.
what was the process for coming up with these numbers?
You know, it really just depends on the board. It depends on the board. You know, some have kept the same number in place for many years. Some will consider modifications based on, you know, if they think that it's more advantageous to isolate tax benefits to particular subsets of their residents. And that's essentially what the exemptions are. You can either handle tax rate relief across all taxpayers through your rate that you consider in August or September, or you can zero in on particular segments like, you know, the decisions been made across the Woodlands to give additional benefit to residential homeowners. That's the 20%. So what that essentially does is shift tax burden from residential homeowners to owners of property that are second homes or rental homes that pay full freight, or commercial property owners that pay full freight, you're targeting a tax benefit to a subset of your residents. Over 65 and disabled is just the same concept, except on an even narrower sliver of your tax base. So, it's not really a one size fits all discussion. Just put the chart in there this year, because I get that question from not all boards, but I've been from some boards from year to year. Well, what's this month? That month. So I thought I would go ahead and preempt those questions by putting the chart in there.
What does it mean bottom line in terms of revenue when we do these exemptions?
That depends on the district. It depends on how many people are eligible to claim a particular exemption. So that's something that Jeannie would have to look at, and then your financial advisor to see, okay, if I went up from 20,000 to some other number, if I went down from 20,000 to some number, what impact does that have? I'll tell you, usually, unless you've got a large segment of your population that qualifies, it doesn't really move the needle a whole lot. But I do try to remind boards that are considering increasing their exemptions that this will impact your ability to move the overall tax rate later in the year, because this is the same tax year. It's just you consider exemptions under the statute at the beginning of the year, but you don't actually consider the rate until later in the year once you get certified values, which is September or so. So the more targeted benefits you give earlier in the year, the less flexibility you give yourself later in the year on the overall tax rate. That makes sense.
When's the last time we adjusted it?
Oh, it's been, well, I think I've been at 20,000. I don't have it on here. Let me look it up.
Okay, thank you.
It's not,
I'll let
it
you know.
usually changes very often usually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
the
market
market.
depth.
What is the variance so between the muds from 10,000 to 35,000?
Yeah,
Yeah, and some of that can be because of the makeup of the district, the tax makeup. So 46, 47, 60, 67, those all have pretty significant commercial components that you're basically offloading some of your additional tax responsibility onto. 7 doesn't really have much, I don't think, and 6, 1, those districts, just kind of off the cuff, looking at these 36, they don't have much in the way of a commercial component.
yeah.
We have a lot of churches.
They're tax exempt, of course.
Exactly. That's why we finally built a shopping center when had been here 12, 15 years. Nothing but churches and no taxes.
What do we have to do to consider more exemption?
Well, if you want to consider something besides what you currently have, then you would need to give direction to staff about what incremental changes you would like to evaluate and what the impact would be on your tax revenue.
And the staff comes back to us with those numbers and then we make a decision at that
Correct.
point.
That's correct.
I move that we do that we have staff look at increasing this amount.
What increments would you like for them to look at? Because they really need direction on, do you want to see 21, 22? Do you want to see, 25? Or what increments do you want to see?
I would say another 10.
The flexibility to do multiple options, or is that overburdening?
Well, I think, they need to, otherwise they're just trying to guess, okay, well, what are y'all interested in? So if you want to see 5,000 increments, if you're asking about a 10, then maybe see what a 5 would do and then see what a 10 would do.
So when they look at what it will do, they look at the bottom line for the taxpayer or the bottom line for the
Bottom line for the district. So they'll have to look and see how many homes in the district qualify. And then based on the average, you can't look at every single,
Correct.
what each home is valued at. Look at the average, or I can speak for Jeannie, but generally look at the average property in the district and then take that value off times your tax rate. And what does that reduce your revenue by?
Do we also look at the percentage of households over 65?
Well, that's
And
what I'm
just
saying.
That's the input.
That's,
Yeah.
Because there's a potential that you could raise taxes for the rest of the folks.
Yeah, so I
To
would,
offset that number that you're giving to the 65 and up.
I would caution us to look at an increase because you're just gonna move a tax burden increase the tax burden on those that are under 65.
I'm okay with that.
No, honestly, I'm very confident. I mean, at least three of us are over 65.
It's just part of your policy as well as a director, so.
But I think we want to be generous, but the bottom line is we got to pay our bills. Somebody has to pay
We're
them. So
under
we need to be
budget.
careful about who pays it and do we have enough, period.
I agree, but also we haven't changed it and we don't know how it got long.
It's 2000.
Well, the 65 thing is
2000 part,
standard forever.
2017.
Was increased at that point?
From 10,000 to 20.
Okay.
And
I
is
mean, if we get
everybody-
data that we
Are all the other MUDs on a similar track with timing?
It's a mixed bag. Some have 10, some have 20, and the highest is 35.
As far as the last time they changed, like, was it?
That's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, it really is a mixed bag. I mean, a lot of your targeted tax benefit ammo got spent on going to the max on the 20% several years back. I mean, that was a big move. You just don't see many MUDs do that. So that really limited your flexibility on additional tax exemptions. Yeah, so I don't think you've seen a lot of moving in on over 65 and disabled after the 20%, but we've had a few. So if y'all want to look at an additional 5, an additional 10, I think that should be easy for,
It's easy for her. Yeah.
it's not, you're not asking.
Yeah,
for
right,
five
right,
different-
right, 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 right. I know. But I mean, I think I mean,
I would like to see it just as an exercise in knowing the process. You know,
are we comfortable as a board moving tax burden onto the larger population?
Well, maybe if we
As a
see the
benefit.
numbers.
Well, does the analysis also include what the increase would be to the general population if we did make these increases?
No, because you're not going to know that because you've only got part of the data now. You only have the data of how many homes qualify for the over 65 and disabled, and then what would be the additional relief to each of those properties and what your current tax rate is. You don't know what your certified values are for 25 because those don't come later. And you don't know what your overall tax rate is for 25 because you haven't set that yet. So you won't be able to tell what potential impact it would have on your tax rate in 25 until you get your certifieds for 25. So it's a bit of a disjointed process.
You know, directionally, I mean, anything we give back on the over 65, we have to take away from the under 65 to maintain balance.
I guess
Okay.
for me, it would be an informational, not only just to see the process, how it affects our overall budget, et cetera. Because right now I have no idea. If we go up 5,000, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, if we have, let's just say 300 of our 3,000 plus, hookups that are 65 and over, might be different than another area which has 1,000 or, we'd have to just see what that number would be.
Yeah, I'd like.
Do we have to
see
make a decision on this resolution?
We
Something
can
good
table it
next
till
month,
next month,
yeah.
but yeah, because I can get it.
Yeah, you'll get
together by
it right
next
to
month.
district, so I don't think we pushed it. Maybe once we pushed it past February, I don't,
March, at the latest, I think March,
yeah.
because they need to be out before preliminaries, which is gonna be April and May, so we gotta get it there by March.
And just informally, the group's majority is saying, let's do a 25 and 30.
Just to see, so we can look at it in February.
I would.
I mean, for the general rate too, it's gonna be offset a little bit by appraisal increases. Right? So you may
Yes.
not
It's a
have to
large
increase that rate
increase.
that much, you don't know.
There were a lot of Increases that came this year.
Should I abstain if I'm over 65?
No, because there would be, there wouldn't be.
What about a quorum?
And I would have to abstain.
I wasn't judging anybody else.
I just feel
Okay.
like we don't know enough about the process and it would be nice to see the process.
Okay,
Why
fine.
make it
As long
roll?
as we got another month.
So is that okay with the water authority? You guys will take a look at 25 and 30. We'll, carry this over the next-
As late as March.
well,
No,
we want to decide next month.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I would caution folks that, we don't have the commercial,
Yeah, we don't have a.
commercial, properties that some of the other MUDs have. So, trying to get up where they are at the 30 and 35 may be a stretch. So,
And we may have more 65 and older households than.
yes, that's true too. So,
So we have to take a look at that.
I mean, and as Brian mentioned, the big thing is the 20% on the residential homestead. That was the one that gets people's attention and it looks like a widespread benefit. I haven't heard anybody come back to me and say, hey, I want more exemption from my 60 because I'm 65 older. But
Well, with the appraisal values going up so much, it could be something to take a look at.
Yeah.
65 and over disabled.
Our fixed incomes.
At this point, you have over 900 residents with over 60.
900
That's
properties.
a lot.
How many?
Just over 3,000.
Out of how many total?
3,000.
Wow. That is really good.
That is a lot, yeah. 3579 is what they have, yeah. So that is a whole lot.
That is 1/3.
100%.
You haven't been in our neighborhoods recently. Okay, so 14, we will take a request for additional information and then we will come back and finalize this next month.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay, sure thing. 15, do we have River Authority rep? We gonna do it on our own or? Well, I would go compliment them on the water losses down at 2.8. Yep. So that's good.
I didn't understand that. It says for 2025, but the rolling was at 5. Is that correct?
Rolling is the last 12 months,
Okay.
just the last 12 months. Okay. And the fiscal year to date is just September. Well, it should be September. I mean, it should be
October 1st.
October,
There's September.
September and October in there. Okay. And that's always, as the footnote says, 1 month behind from a billing standpoint.
Did something significant happen in that rolling 12 that brought that number up to 5?
Usually summer months, the usage demand goes way up.
Yeah.
So there's more likelihood of losses. But we're still pretty good. I mean, we're in pretty good shape.
You could go back and look at prior months and see I think there may have been a couple months where it was high.
Are we looking at page 34?
I was talking about page 33, but
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Page 34, I was looking at the chlorine numbers. Are those higher than permitted? Oh, no, it's 0.03. I'm sorry.
Between 1 and 4.
That's the discharge, chlorine,
Ruela.
Wastewater treatment plant
effluent,
3 is under 1 MGD, so they don't have to dechlor.
right?
The other 2 have to dechlor because they're over 1 MGD.
Okay.
That's state rule. That's why the chlorine for the wastewater treatment plant 1 and 2 are a lot over.
Yeah, they
They
are.
have to add another chemical to dechlorinate before it goes out in the stream.
Right.
It's a state law as part of your permit.
Okay. I did have a question. When we don't use our allocated surface water, where does that go? Does that go to the next month? Or the next year that we get to use that,
What
or
are you reading from?
on page 45?
Like the notes are. Television. Yeah, typically in the winter months, you're gonna be low. You make up the difference in the summer months.
So you get to roll that lack of usage over
It's 12 months.
to roll, okay.
Eric, I don't know whether you were going to comment on starting on page 50 on the AC, water line condition assessment update.
That would be part of the trustee report.
Okay.
But, I mean, the report that they presented is here in your packets. I didn't have anything additional to add to it other than just to point out that it was there and brief that they are in working on the destructive and non-destructive testing. And it looks like they're on schedule. We actually got notification today that they're actually in the field. So we've and because the destructive testing requires some coordination with us and users.
So I thought they provide a reasonable analysis of what they've done, but they don't provide any conclusions or they don't convert their information in any actionable item. On page 52, they include the thickness for the samples, but I don't know whether these are good or bad on that table on page 52.
Yes.
Are they withholding any conclusions? They're just presenting data, or are they saying?
It's not very common in the water world to give conclusions in the middle of the evaluation.
Okay.
So this is data that they're collecting, and then they'll make their conclusions once all the data's in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't have any.
I'm sure they have some in, as they go along, but it's pretty uncommon even to get this level of update in the middle of the project.
I have another question. Are some of these locations older than others? And is that part of the consideration of the thickness?
I would think that's certainly a part of it, sure.
So would we know when these lines went in?
Of course.
These
Yeah.
sections?
Oh, yeah.
It's got all that.
Okay.
And in their selection, they try to get a mixture of ages. So, yeah.
Correct.
So. Okay. We'll tell Chris we were definitely hamstrung without his participation, but we struggled through.
Okay. I will. Will do.
Anything else on item 15? So the Bear Branch,
Yeah, so the last that went on was the stakeholders had instructed the engineer to do some additional modeling on a couple different scenarios. That modeling is, complete, and we will present that to MUD 67 tomorrow. And then I would expect a stakeholder meeting here in the next week or so to go over it with all the stakeholders. So more to come. This will get together hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
Paul and Jack, you guys are engaged in that. Okay, anything else? 16?
And likely what I'll do is once 67 seen it, I'll send it out to the rest of y'all, to the stakeholders before the stakeholder meeting.
Brian, it's yours.
Yep, so under the general attorney's report, the legislation, as y'all may know, has started. I just checked and they have elected a speaker. Dustin Burrows defeated David Cook, vote of 85 to 55. So now that that's been resolved, I know there's still gonna be some ruffled feathers over it, but votes been taken, and so now they'll start the process of appointing committee chairs, and then bills will start being introduced and start moving through the process. So we'll be monitoring that process as usual and bring to y'all updates as necessary on bills that are pending and instances where it may be useful for directors to get involved. My process begins today. That's all I have with the attorney's report. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
You got the next one too?
Yep. So 18 memo on Forever Chemicals. I'll kind of cut to the chase on it. So the short is that y'all just received finished water from the River Authority. So the monitoring requirements and the potential treatment requirements are all going to be under the purview and responsibility of the River Authority. So our only recommendation for this, for the Woodlands MUDs is to authorize or concur for Eric to coordinate with the River Authority to, make sure that the required monitoring is completed and that the districts are made aware of any compliance related issues and any remediation that would be necessary as a result of testing.
We have to give him approval today.
Concur for him to coordinate with the River Authority. There's not technically any action that's necessary by the MUDs, but I think it's good for the districts to have Eric in that kind of
So far,
supervisory role.
our testing and our system is negative,
Correct.
undetectable.
And the handful of districts that have done limited testing for some of the PFAS chemicals, I don't think they've done it for all the chemicals, but the testing that's been required thus far have not resulted in anything, which for groundwater would not surprise
You wouldn't think
us.
that
I
would
mean,
have
it's-
it in.
Yeah, you don't have people throwing water bottles in underground aquifers. That's usually in surface water and runoff. So we anticipate that to the extent there are issues, it's going to be more with surface water than it is with groundwater.
Yeah, and I did learn, actually, at the plant, which the picture there on the left, is the filters at the GRP that actually filters out PFAS. So the surface water, half of your water, it has another, a bunch of, it's processed and cleaned and disinfected differently than groundwater. It goes through a much different process, and those are the filters there. And then they actually filter PFAS. I learned last week. As a side note,
Those are-
half
That's
of
a
them.
big deal.
It's a real big deal because that's half our water, and that's where, as Brian said, that's where you expect to see it in the surface stuff. So
Those are the under pressure fist
With the little
filters or
speed.
whatever that they're pushing through. Pretty much traps everything.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway from this is on page 60, where, it does call out that, we do the testing. If we exceed the limits, then we've got to follow up with by April 29. So, but we have no indication that, in fact, we have indication it should not be an issue.
yeah, and so five of the 9 districts that are going to be tested through the initial phase, which was the UCMR, this was EPA doing some preliminary testing. I'm assuming that the results of that nationwide that they found kind of led to this movement. But we've done 5 out of 9 that we were going to do. And what we're going to do going forward is prepare kind of a 1-page document, and we're going to share that with you all. And as each district finishes their testing, we'll add them to the 1-pager. So we're developing that right now. We'll share that with you once we have it. So you can see the results of the testing.
I'm done. That's all you need? Okay, Eric, 19 on the GM report.
All right, a couple things. Just want to let you know that we have been running the ditches across the woodlands. Kim has done an amazing job working with our GIS consultant to utilize an app that allows us in the field to take a snapshot of the asset. So right now we have in our electronic database, our graphic database GIS, we have the ditches, but we don't have the pipe assets. And so there's a lot of pipe assets from backslop interceptors to street outfalls. And the majority of those pipes, when they were originally constructed, those pipes going into the ditch that you would see are made out of corrugated metal pipe, CMP as we call it. And CMP is metal and it disintegrates over time. And when it does, it brings all the soil above it into it and craters and makes big holes and whatnot. So that allows us to sit there, drop a pin where it is, identify the asset, identify the condition, the pipe size, the actual location, assess the actual condition. And so we are documenting all that as we speak. And what that will do is allow us we'll extract that data once we have it all inputted on all the assets, and then help us build a capital improvement plan and work with the MUDs to figure out how we're going to address some of this stuff. What I can tell you overall that we've seen kind of the 2 bigger issues, the ditches and the flowway of the ditches in general look really good. What doesn't look so good, as I suspected, was the backstop interceptor piping and that metal pipe that I mentioned. And then on some of the older ditches, a lot of the right of way, the trees have just slowly grown into and towards the ditch to where in some cases it's preventing access to continue on. And so I think there's going to be probably some heavy lifting on some clearing to push back some of the tree overgrowth, because a normal ditch would be kind of trapezoidal, and then at the top we call it maintenance berm, and that's where you'd drive, that's where you'd access, and some of that area has been pushed in from just over the years overgrowth. So that and the piping are the two bigger things we're seeing so far.
Who has responsibility for clearing?
Well, we have a maintenance contract with a company to do the mowing. And so, some of these ditches don't have trees, some of them do. It looks like it's on the older ditches. So it doesn't look like that was done.
So it's not the landowner, it's on our easement, and we've got the responsibility to clear that.
And, some of this, there weren't trees there before. Bird sits on the fence. Seed tree over the years grows, and it just starts slowly, building and building and building. So a lot of that needs to be addressed. But I mean, we're going to have to look at the overall impact per district. We're going to have to look at budgets. We're going to have to look at long-term planning to figure out how, some districts have different levels of things that we're going to need to deal with. So this asset database that we're building right now will allow us to look at that data and run some analytics and figure out how we get there.
Okay.
So working on that. Let's see. We do have, I know you wanted to talk about the CWG. I believe you mentioned one of the things we didn't get an alternate. And so CWG identified probably a good idea to identify an alternate in case your lead cannot make a meeting. So I would ask that maybe we consider that just in case Martha can't.
Oh, I have,
Do we already have it?
yes,
Perfect.
Emily.
Perfect. Great.
Emily said-
Didn't have it noted, so.
You good with
Yep.
Okay.
And the last thing I had, I was, had a GRP committee orientation, I guess last week. And I've got I got a binder and I got a copy for you.
Oh, okay.
And so as I promised, I would bring you into the process. And so I've got some information for you, either paper or thumb drive deal.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to be doing each month is meeting with Brad, talking through different parameters, different things that we want to address as I get rolling into this thing. There hasn't been a meeting yet. Its first meeting is on the 21st. So it's in that, and I know you've been in and out, and we'll work on getting something put together, and we can go over the
It's
information.
21st or the 27th?
I don't know. Let me see.
Oh, it was the fourth Monday.
Oh, for January, they had to change it. Yeah, because,
Okay.
no, it was, there was a conflict. I think it was MLK or something else was an issue.
Okay.
Because January's, dates were funky. So.
I'll be back in town on the 23rd.
Okay,
So maybe the week of the 27th, we can try to get together. So,
absolutely.
okay, great. Okay,
Sounds great.
good.
With that, I have, John, on an update on the communications?
Good evening. You have a communications report starting on page 68. And there at top, infrastructure renewal. So Eric noted some things there with community working group. That next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 5th.
At 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we'll be talking about providing some background information on how projects are funded, general roles and responsibilities of the various partners involved. I'm
Did
trying
they
to get it.
do anything to increase the sample of surveys? Particularly for MUD 7, because MUD 7 was underrepresented on the surveys.
They've not reissued the survey. We have had some discussions on how to increase participation in future surveys. Project cut sheets are now uploaded to the renewal website. So those are the one-pagers that go through each of the SRA projects. Background information on the project, timeline, funding sources, and so forth, what phase the project is in. So that's all available now. We're starting to push out messaging on that to direct folks to that. And then we'll be adding the mud level projects to that here in the near future. And let's see, the only other thing I really wanted to hit this evening is it's annual report time, right? That time of year again. So last year, you remember you sent out a hard copy with the February bill. It goes out the end of February, and then a digital edition as well. So this has been a very well received, I think, important piece for the MUDs. Urge you to consider doing it again this year. If so, then basically, would work with one of you to get these various bullets updated on this template. So consider last year's report as a template, and we'll just update those accomplishments and then the forward-looking bullets for 2025. So however you want to gather, however you want to decide on those bullets is up to you all. And then I can do a back and forth with one of you to get fine tuned and make it look pretty and get it sent out.
I don't mind working on that.
Okay. Everybody okay? Part of, kind of ties into your public education stuff.
Okay, so great. So I'll be in touch with you, Marta.
Okay.
In the timeline, you'll bring a draft back next month for us to look at.
Yeah, so again, this needs to go out with February's bill. So if we can prove this at next month's meeting, it'll be great timing and
Maybe if you guys could work,
send out.
email out a draft and we'll come prepared next month
That'd be
to
good.
Okay.
finalize it.
You said it needs to be in the February bill, so it needs.
Which goes out the end of February.
Okay.
So yeah, if we approve it next meeting,
We struggle with, by the time it gets into March, then it's like, well, is it really a year-end report? And you look forward, and so you want to be kind of first 2 months, get it out. So, I mean, some of the neighbors I've talked to like this. And that's what your feedback was. So this doesn't have to be overworked from it's not a technical document, but
No,
it's
just the highlights.
a highlights. Okay. Make sure it's factual and.
So would you stay with the same bullet points and just update the information on each bullet point?
yeah, use the same format. I recommend sticking to 3 to 4 bullet points per category. Any more than that, and it just gets a little too heavy for folks to read.
The elections you might replace that with something else or.
You might consider something along the ditch. You got a ditch project you're working on, and then the ditch assessment that I mentioned, that might be something that you would share with the customers.
Okay.
They might want to know something like
You
that.
might mention what happened at the election.
Yeah.
That you
Yeah.
had 2 new members, 3 new members.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be in touch with you, Marta, here in the next couple days.
Okay.
And rest report is just our current marketing materials. And any questions? All right, thank you.
The first meeting of the community working group, do you want
Yeah,
to do an update on that now or part of some other?
I can do it now.
Okay.
We had our meeting in December. The new meeting is scheduled, like it says, on February 5th from 11 to 1. Emily has agreed to attend for me. They did a full publicity rollout yesterday. Did that happen?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Well, we've been working on establishing the alternates. We have done some communication on the working group.
So I went to the meeting. It was really nice. It was a luncheon meeting. The MUDs were represented, the villages were represented, some developers were there, and other agencies that participate in giving us water. And we went through and did some exercises together as a group to identify priorities. And we are strictly an advisory group. So it was a really good turnout. That's about it. Do you have anything to add?
Well, actually, yeah, let me amend my response to your question. So we did a lot of messaging on the community working group last year. There hasn't been much to work on at this point, and we certainly will as we hit some milestones. With the rollout that you were referring to on the project cut sheets, because we did do a lot of messaging on that just in the last couple of weeks, those being uploaded.
I think that was in Cindy's email. She talked about a full publicity rollout January 13th. Not sure what that would have entailed,
Maybe for the cut sheets?
perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's referring probably to the cut sheet.
Just out of curiosity, how big is this group? Are we talking 20, 40, 100?
It's 25.
There were about 5, 6 tables of 6, so about 30, 40 people.
And they're advising, the advisory group is advising,
They are,
advising you?
they're a bridge to the community, to Woodlands Water. They're a bridge to the community, so they're bringing forward questions, concerns, comments on infrastructure renewal. And then we're asking of them to bring information back out to the community as well, just to further inform the process and build transparency.
They're kind of connected into the Public Education Committee of the trustees though, right? I think Neil is
Not-
kind of,
Not directly, but
not directly?
Ultimately, yes. I mean, the information comes back through.
No, it's a much bigger group. Yeah. Right?
Like we went over the survey results and how many surveys were sent out, who responded to the survey, et cetera. That's why I asked, because our district was underrepresented as far as number of surveys completed. And then how would we increase participation in the survey? Because you want a good cross-section.
we do review the happenings of the community working group and the PEC, and the PEC does discuss, how to orchestrate the meetings and what information we think should be brought forward and so forth. But the community working group is not answering to the PEC or vice versa. So the PEC works with Holloway to orchestrate the whole.
Let's move on to the trustee report. And since I was absent last week, Emily attended on my behalf. If there's anything you want to highlight on
Yes.
page 73, 72.
Two pieces, and one piece on 72, is the portion of renewal replacement, that the testing that Carlo recommended be done by an outside group had not been in the past done. So the testing of all the, they're gonna have to clear out and test the concrete and just test everything, and that has not been done in the past. So this is a new venture of really taking a closer look for the repair and replacement portion of the whole process that we're going through. So it's good that we're doing this. Also too, over on page 73, because everybody can read, and then also we've also had other reports this evening. I'm going to skip over the general managers and the attorney's report and go onto the public education committee portion. And a part outside of the reading here is that Holloway is going to be with SJRA moving that into a process, and Eric's going to be working on it really as far as how that's going to be handled in the future with the MUDs and the Woodlands Water, like who's taking that over, how much it's going to cost, all those things that's going to be coming in the future. So those are two highlights.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks again for filling in for me. Okay. Any other questions or comments for Emily? Okay. Any need for a closed session? Okay, so we will reconvene in open session. Matters for next agendas. I think we carried over a couple things. So we'll add those for next week, or excuse me, next month. Anything else we want to add to the agenda?
What? What are we to do with this condition assessment?
Memorize it.
Memorize it.
Yeah, that was, I saw that as part of our package, but it wasn't on the agenda, so I didn't know.
Packet.
Yeah, that was intended to give you an update on what was presented.
So the Corolla report that I very briefly mentioned, at the Board of Trustees meeting, and what came out of it, that is the report.
So Corella was present in the trustee meeting and went over that?
Yeah.
So we can go back and watch that video if we
Yes.
want to.
It was just so big. We put the HDR because it was a couple pages. This was so big that the packet would have gotten huge. I know we printed it anyway, but wanted y'all to have it.
Anything else new for next week, next month? Okay, I propose we adjourn. 7 is completed for January.